So let me start by explaining what the UK Electronic Skills Foundation is. It's a charitable foundation with one aim, as we were just discussing, to try and promote electronics and encourage more young people to get involved in electronics and pursue careers. In order to encourage more young people, we need to do two things. We need to raise awareness, as we were just describing, about what electronics is, what technology is, and that there are opportunities in the UK. And then to support those young people as they develop their interest all the way through to working in the sector. We were founded in 2010 by NMI and its members, and we do collaborate right across the UK with a number of trade associations and universities. Let me start by taking you back to 2007. I'm not sure the age of the people on the call, but to me, 2007 is not that long ago. But this fella, Steve Jobs, stood up at an Apple event with that device. That device is the first iPhone. So January 2007, Steve Jobs launched the iPhone. Apple launched the iPhone. And if you talk to young people, as I frequently do in school settings and so on, they don't. An iPhone, a smartphone, is part of their everyday technology, and it's revolutionised the way that we consume entertainment, the way that we shop, the way that we communicate with family and friends. But it is quite insightful to think it is only 12 years ago that that device, that technology, that way of living our society operates just didn't exist. So that just shows how rapidly technology advances. So having looked at the history, if we look forward, then we look at the government, and they've set out in the Made Smarter review and the industrial strategy a number of challenges, and at those challenges and at the centre of the industrial strategy is digitisation, is technology, is electronics. So that shows in the future that government and investors are looking for technology to solve problems that society and we all face. If you look at the amount of investment from venture capitalists, then absolutely the top 7 items on that list of technologies that venture capitalists are investing in are all to do with electronics and technology in one shape or form. The final area that I would mention to people is connected cars, autonomous vehicles, and automotive in general is such a growth area. Every large automotive company is looking at electric batteries, electrification of the drive chain, driver assistance processes, and the connectivity of vehicles. It's a massive growth area that depends on electronics. Even if you look at computing and related technologies, then here's a list of Amazon devices, which they all contain electronics. They all depend on electronics to work. You look at advances on the tech companies. If we look at Google, massive data centers that they're creating in the far north in Scandinavia, all based on electronics. Equally, Apple investing $45 million in a research center in China for new hardware. And even Microsoft. Microsoft are looking at FPGAs to help machine learning. So they all got ambitions. So the technology companies are all looking at electronics and electronics-derived improvements to drive forward their businesses. So what about electronic sector in the UK? We would chat it when we were chatting with Ben. It was saying it's big. And let's look at some statistics from the government. As of December 2017, it showed that there's 53,000 companies in the broader electronic systems ecosystem in the UK. Now, if you look, the majority of those, 43 and a bit thousand, are very small micro-organisations, but they're startups largely and are likely to develop. There's over 285 companies with over 250 employees. So that's an awful lot of organisations which generate about 6% of GDP for the country. In terms of total employment, well, it's 926,000 people who are employed in the electronic sector. So it's very significant part of our economy. And there comes a problem, because if we look at how many students, UK students, are studying electronic and electrical engineering at university, it's not as many as there should be relative to other engineering disciplines. So the graphs here show three of the principal types of engineering that people study at university. The blue is mechanical engineering, the green is civil engineering, and the red is electrical electronic engineering. This data is from UKESF and shows over the 10 years, the number studying mechanical engineering have doubled to roughly about 6,500. And as you can see from the red line, those studying electrical electronic engineering has pretty much maintained the same and dipped close to 3,000 with civil engineering overtaking. Large numbers of people do computer science as well, but relatively, although the numbers, overall numbers of people studying STEM subjects at university are increasing, those studying specifically electronic and electrical engineering have flatlined and in fact have decreased slightly, which is really frustrating and disappointing and leads to an increased demand for those students. There's another challenge as well. It's not simply about a numbers game, about the quantity of students. It's really important that graduates are ready for the workplace. And as Ben was mentioning, employers expect those leaving university and entering the workplace to be fit for purpose, as it were. If you look at the most recent IET Skills and Demand Survey, they talk about work-ready employees. And I'll just highlight the statistic there that they say, employers say across the UK that largely graduates are not necessarily fit for purpose, that don't suit the needs of your organisations because they don't develop practical skills or they don't provide other practical experience for students. Now, universities would argue they're not training people, they're education establishments, and that's a fair point as well. However, there is this definite difference of opinion about the readiness of graduates to enter the workplace. So this is where something like our scheme, our undergraduate scholarship scheme, can come in. And our tagline is that we connect the most capable students who are studying electronics at the top UK universities with employers. And there's a photo of Warren East. He was an advocate of our scheme when it started in 2010, when he was a CEO at ARM, and has followed on since he moved to Rolls-Royce. And he kindly spoke at an event we organised a couple of years ago, and Rolls-Royce are a member of our scheme, which is great support. In terms of the universities that we work with 21 universities right across the UK, including 3 in Scotland, which is Heriot-Watt, Glasgow and Edinburgh University. But they're all research-led universities with well-established, productive electronic engineering departments with really good numbers of UK students at each. What do employers say about our scheme? I've got quotes from 3 companies which have been very positive, that have been involved in our scheme since the outset. And I understand from Ben that there's some people from Leonardo on the call, which is great. And you've been involved in our scheme since the outset, which is good. It's not just large employers or well-established employers that the scheme works for. We work with a range of companies. There's 52 on that slide there. Some you will know very well, some you might have heard of, and some that you may not have heard of. Our scheme works for a range of employers, big and small, in particular niche areas, for instance, compilers, which is EmberCosm, or more generally in other areas. The value proposition that we put to employers is this. So effectively, you can rely on us to access a pool of really talented and engaged and interested students who are studying electronics and related subjects. It's a very broad pool that we fish in to get students for you. And effectively, we can bring them to you. And therefore, by connecting with them as undergraduates, you reduce your risk of graduate recruitment. Graduate recruitment is a problematic and expensive activity. And actually, research shows that connecting with students whilst they're undergraduate works really well. As I say, the scheme started in 2010 and has been going since then. We've awarded, through sponsoring companies, almost 500 scholarships, 489 to be exact, so far at the moment. And of those, 270 have graduated. Around 2/3 were offered employment. 14% went on to do postgraduate study, mainly PhDs. And really heartening, bearing in mind, we know from the evidence that a lot of engineers don't actually work in the sector once they do graduate. We know that 83% of those people who've been on our scheme are working in the broader electronics and technology ecosystem, which is really good. In summary, why should you work with the UKESF? Well, we work with 21 universities and can reach out on your behalf to attract students from those universities to our undergraduate scheme. We manage the whole process and bring to you graduates that want to work with you, work for you, and have the relevant knowledge and skills that you're looking for. We do, and I say this unashamedly, we do attract really good students, and we have both anecdotal and empirical evidence from employers to say that the students that are attracted to our scheme are definitely really up there at the top of those that are studying electronics in the UK. It's really heartening to do that, and we're able to do that because of our reputation with those universities. We work really hard with tutors and academics at the university to make sure that they signpost their students, their most capable students, to our scheme, and that's really heartening that works. So we're really at that nexus between industry and academia, and can help a range of companies, hopefully more companies, to connect with students.